Okay, so in this picture, this is Cape Town, South Africa, which is a perfect example of how not all of Africa is poor, which most of it really isn't. And this is just a nighttime picture of Cape Town, which actually looks pretty cool, all lit up, and it looks very nice and not poor at all. Next is the Castle of Good Hope, which was built around or in the mid 1600s, which is nice. Okay, so in this picture and the upcoming pictures, you'll see how I took a number of pretty cool pictures at Gallagher Transfer Park, and it's actually pretty cool because they give tours around the desert, and there's a lot of nice deserty animals around there, such as elephants, giraffes, rhinos, zebras, there's cheetahs, lions, all kinds of great animals, antelopes, or if I said those right. But there's I forget what those are called, but they're an animal. There's hippos, and I've learned that some people actually live on this desert, which is pretty crazy, because I know I wouldn't have the guts to living around all those animals that could have the power to instantly cease you. And as you can see, this is a little baby elephant prancing around, probably following its parents. And upcoming next, we have a nice picture of a giraffe drinking water, and this is actually one of the wetter parts of the desert where there's a lot of green grassland, and here in the picture you can see how there's given tours around the park, which is pretty cool. So yeah, which is nice too. I had forgotten to mention that in the last slide, Chobe National Park was in Botswana, but now we're in Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe, which actually has some nice pictures. And here's one with a double rainbow. Yes, you've seen it, a double rainbow. But anyways, there's some people with really big guts, and they go hanging off of the side of the waterfalls, and if you fall, let's just say there's really no going back. That's not something good. Okay, so now we're entering Kabuli National Rainforest Park. It was made either 1932 or 1933 to protect and reserve the rainforest. And there is actually people living in the forest. As you can see, there's a tribe on the hilltop. There's also some wildlife, like monkeys, and a lot of foreign bugs that are actually pretty deadly. And there's also a bunch of poison ivy, if I'm right. And the park covers a mass total of 766 square kilometers, and that's a lot. And also, it is one of the rather older parks in Africa. In this picture we see Nairobi, Kenya, which is in the city. It's actually rather a more wealthy part of the city, or of the country. Now we're visiting Mogadishu, Somalia, which is actually very poor and probably the most corrupt country in the world, and it has a lot of mad people. This is the safest place in Mogadishu, and it is actually 5 times worse than the city of Pittsburgh. I met a bad group of people who surprisingly let me take a picture of them, but it was their gang, so you could call me a gangster. Sorry, I just ruined your brains. I probably made your ears bleed, but okay. Mogadishu is a rather architectural city made of a lot of builders. Founded in the earlier 5th century, and it was expanded in between 1500s and 1600s. So that's actually great, and it's been an old city, and I wouldn't say one of the oldest, but it's up there. So we've come to the conclusion that Alaska is not just a bunch of people in underwear and tattered up t-shirts running around on the sand in little tribes and teepees. And I've learned that it has a lot of history into it, and it's not at all as what most people nowadays would think of it, as I just said. So it was a great time learning and walking and taking all these pictures and all this research about Africa, and I really enjoyed it, and yeah, it was just a great time. Okay, so I found some lost tapes when I was in Somalia, and I find them pretty funny, so let's get right to it. Save me! No! Save me! Okay, first I started out in Cape Town, South Africa. Next, I went to see the famous Kalahari Desert, which actually has a famous water park named after it in Ohio. Next, I went to Chobe National Park, or Kobe, I don't know how it's pronounced, in Botswana. And as you can see earlier in this the slideshow, that I had 6 or 7 different animals of pictures that were taken. Of course, then I went to Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe, which borders Botswana. Next, I went to Kabale Forest National Park in Uganda, which is actually in Central Africa, which is quite a little distance from Zimbabwe. Next, I went to a little east into Kenya to visit Nairobi, and there was a lot of wealth and poverty, and it was a mixture of lifestyle. Next, I did something stupid, as you could see earlier in the show. I went to Mogadishu, Somalia, and there were a couple tourist attractions, but none of them were, all of them were warned with signs, and it is actually as bad as the movie earlier showed. And lastly, I went to Timbuktu, Mali, which is way up in northwestern Africa, and there were a bunch of different historical sightings with architecture. And yeah, so that was my trip. I'm sorry you couldn't see it all through this slide, but yeah. If you couldn't see, I have the last arrow going from Mogadishu all the way up to Mali. I'm sorry I could not fit that in, but the screen is only so enlarged. But yeah, it went up to Mali, which is bordering the Western Sahara up in the northwest corner of Africa. So I hoped you maybe learn something from watching this, and have a nice rest of your day.